Very good morning, everyone. Welcome to your lab class for week 3. I hope all of you are doing well. And also, I hope that you all are active and fresh for the early morning CIN 535 classes, and especially for this lab class. Today, we will be looking at few things. We will be giving up some few important aspects. So in total, I have total of 6 lessons for this lab class. So we'll try our best to finish it on time within the 2 hours time frame. Now, last week, what we did was we went around looking at few things, okay, for Adobe Photoshop. We went around looking at the brightness and contrasts of images. We looked around looking at adjusting the vibrance of images. Moreover, we went around toning, hue, and saturation, and we also worked on adjustment layers. So all these 4 things basically involved toning up of images. So that was on last week, and also the very last lesson that we took on was also on a very basic selection using the rectangular selection tool. So we went around selecting things or objects on images. So this was on last week, and this week we'll be working on images as well, and we'll be working on selection tools and also some of the actions that we can apply on our images. Before we move on, just a quick reminder, your project 1 is also out on Moodle, which carries 20% towards your coursework. Also, your lecture-based quizzes, please do go and attempt them. Now, while some more students are joining in, we will try our best to start the class on time. So if the class starts at 9 a.m., so I will basically kick off the class at 9 a.m. So those of them who tend to miss the class or join us late, they will be catching up through the use of the recording that I will be uploading after the class. So very quickly, may I ask all of you to quickly go and download the lab files. So you have lab files, exercise files that is for you to attempt it out after the class, or if we get time within the class, we can do it together. But for now, I will need you to go and download the lab files, please. You have 2 minutes to do that. Please ensure that all the files that you're downloading for our labs, you're keeping it within a folder. I would suggest to have a folder on your desktop, SCIN 535, and then have folders created within it on weekly basis. So you have folder for week 1, week 2, and week 3. And within week 3 folder, you can place in all these lab files. And for your exercise, you can have another folder within the week 3 folder and keep them accordingly, very much similar to what I have done. So you can have this practice. It's always good to have your files organized so that it becomes easier when you are looking for those files. You still have a minute with you to download your files. And meanwhile, while you're downloading your files, those of you who have joined us, there's 5 of you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for taking out your time and putting in your effort. I genuinely appreciate it. And also, it's good for you. If you're joining the live classes, it's even better because you can communicate with me virtually. It can be a virtual face-to-face or virtual talking session. And also, you should know that this particular class is also a consultation class. So should you have any questions or queries, do let me know. Izal, you had sent me an email yesterday. You had a query in regards to the week 3 lecture-based quiz. I have corrected it up, and I think you were losing a mark, so I have remarked it. So it should be all good now.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Izal. All right, so let's continue with our lab. So I will request you to open up photopea.com, www.photopea.com. And while you are opening up photopea.com, can you go and open up the file named Quick Selection? Quick Selection. Now, I would suggest to use shortcut keys. What you can do is you can place a click within your workspace area, Control O combination key, that's shortcut for open. Go within the folder where you have allocated the files, select the file named Quick Selection and open, and you will have that. Okay, so what we'll be doing today is we will be working with selection tools. Now, last week we had worked with a rectangular selection tool. Now today, the very first set of selection tool that we are going to work with is called a quick selection tool. Okay, now what happens with the quick selection tool is that the tool tries to find the image edges and automatically stops the selections based on those edges. So this is how you do it. You have your tools menu on the left hand side. So from there, you'll try to select your quick selection tool. Now your quick selection tool, it's the fourth tool in your tools bar. So you'll notice that there's a bottom arrow. So that means there are more buttons to it. You can click and hold, and your quick selection tool is the second one. With me, everyone? Okay, so once you have selected your quick selection tool, now just some shortcuts. Now generally you can increase the size of your, if you notice the size is quite small. If you want to make it bigger, you can have it controlled by clicking onto the option bar, and then you can drag to improve the size. Now sometimes it becomes very difficult to know what is your size. For example, if you have chosen 67, this is the size 67 pixels. However, if you would like to randomly increase or decrease, it's always good to know the shortcut key. So the shortcut key for increasing size of a brush tool, now this gives an icon of a brush tool. So if you want to increase size, you'll notice that in your keyboards right underneath the backspace button you have a backslash. Now, next to the backslash button, you have the rectangular brackets. So you have opening rectangular bracket. So opening rectangular bracket, when I'm pressing it on the screen, it makes the size of your brush tool smaller. And if you would continuously click on your closing rectangular bracket, you'll see your brush size becomes bigger. So opening bracket makes it smaller, closing rectangular bracket makes it bigger in size. So this is how you can apply the shortcut keys to control the size of your brush tool and selection tools. So this is a very handy tool when you are working with a quick selection tool. Okay, now what I'll do next is this. I'll have my size something like this. Now what I'll do is I'll just place a click onto that raspberry portion. Now I'm not dragging it, I'm just placing a click once. Let me do it. Okay, so this is my selection tool. I'm just placing a click once. Now at the moment you do not have too much color variations in this particular image. However, some images may have different color variations, and just because of that you'll have only portions of the item selected. Now when you have portions of the items selected, what you can do is you can always use your add selection and subtract selection options from the option bar. Go and get whatever your desired selection you want to have. At the moment, what I'm doing is, this is a very simple image and I've placed this on purpose so that you are able to know how it operates at a very basic level. So I'm just pressing a click once, it selects the entire thing. Now do that. Now, just in case if something has gone wrong while you're trying to select it, what you can do is this. So you have done a selection. Now you want to step out of that selection, or in other words, you want to deselect something. You can press Control and D from the keyboard. that allows you to deselect. Or another thing you can do is you can go to your select option and click on deselect. Control D, select option, deselect. Okay, can you go and select that? It's a Raspberry. Can you go and select the Raspberry, everyone? Now, once you've done that, what I will ask you to do next is this. Your adjustments bar, pardon me, let me just drag this here so that I'm able to see the adjustments layer. Okay, now in your layers section, you'll see an adjustment layer. Now, can you click onto the adjustment layer? Now we applied the selection. Now let's go and manipulate the image. Okay, so click on new adjustments layer. And then from there, can you go and select the option hue/saturation? Now, from last week and before last week, if you're selecting an adjustment layer, what it does, it gives you a covering layer on top of the original image. So you are not basically disturbing the original image. It remains as it is, but you're applying changes in a separate temporary layer. Now from here, what I want you to do is I want you to go and manipulate the color of this Raspberry. For instance, at the moment, it's quite reddish in color. So the range, I will choose red. I'm not choosing master. I'm just choosing a red. Okay. The range, I'm choosing it red. And since we applied a selection to that Raspberry, what will happen is you'll only manipulate the color within the selection and not outside the selection. So if I want to have it purplish in color or bluish in color, you'll notice the color indicated at the bottom. So that means I will need to drag it a bit towards the left hand side. So therefore, I am dragging it to the left hand side and it becomes something like this. Can you do the same? All right. Now, you must be thinking, okay, why do we have to go around trying a confusing way of applying hue or saturation effect on the image while you can just simply use a brush tool to color? And you are true. Yes, we can do that. But there's a big difference between applying a hue and saturation effect and applying a paintbrush color. For instance, if I use my brush tool is this one. Probably you can have a look. And then this is just me showing you the difference between the two. I can apply a brush tool and I'll go and select the color as, let's say, red. Okay. Now here's the thing. It is selected. At the moment, my selection still applies. So what I'll do is I'll use my closing rectangle button from the keyboard to make the size of the brush tool go a bit bigger, and I want to apply the red color. Now notice this. Let me do this again. Now notice this. I'll just go and hide this and notice that. Now, if I apply a red color, what happens? You'll notice that the texture and the shadows and the contrasting colors, they disappear. Now, if you would have a look at this, okay, you'll see when we apply a hue and saturation and we go on changing the colors, the texture remains the same, the image nations remains the same. Moreover, you'll notice that the shadows remain. But however, if I go and apply a paintbrush on it, it all disappears. So the paint and the color overrides the texture of the image. And we don't want to do that. We want to have the texture. Otherwise, if I would apply a red color on this Raspberry, that Raspberry doesn't be left. It wouldn't be a Raspberry by the end of the time. I would actually apply the red color. So I need to ensure that I have the texture in place. Therefore, I will go and show my adjustment layer over there. And then this is the texture. So far, so good. Any questions, anyone? Is there anyone who wants me to repeat the entire step? No. If not, then I'll go and deselect this. So how do I deselect? I can go to the select option from the menu bar, click on deselect, or I prefer applying the shortcut Control and D. So I deselect everything. Now, next up, let's go and do something else. Okay, now this time what I would ask you to do is I will ask you to select the entire of the background. Do not select the green stock in that raspberry, and also do not select raspberry. You can go and select the shadow of it and choose the entire background, change the background to black and white. So how are we going to do that? Using a quick selection tool. The step remains the same. I will go and select my background layer. Do not select your adjustment layer for hue and saturation. Do not do that. Go and select the background layer. After that, I will go on to my tools options. So with my tools options and in the tools menu, I will go and select the quick selection tool, which is here. So you'll notice that you have a bottom right hand side arrow. You click and hold, it will give you options. So I'll select the quick selection tool. From there, I will go and place a click. Now, here's the difference. Last time we had placed a click once, it selected the entire thing. This time it didn't. Okay, so you'll have to click and drag. Also notice this here. Can I have attention? Also do have a look at this is when I actually select using a quick selection tool, it gives or it leaves out some portion of that selection right on the top. So I'll have to click on it again. Now, likewise, scroll down to check and see. Another one is here. Okay, and if I want to scroll it to the right hand side, so control and your mouse roller, drag it up and down, you'll notice that you're putting it either to the left or to the right, and apply your selection to the entire of that image background. So my selection looks clean at the moment. All good, everyone? Please go and select the entire background. Now do notice this. Once you have selected the entire background, now what's actually happening is you are also selecting this particular raspberry together with the background. Okay, now we want to exclude this. Now if you want to exclude this, now see you have selected everything in the image at the moment. So we want to exclude this portion and we only want the pink background we selected. Now to do that, what you need to do is you'll go and click on, you'll go into your options bar, click on subtract, okay, the minus sign, or what you can do is you can also press and hold Alt button and select, that will do the same thing. So I'm using the manual one at the moment, so subtract, and then I will go and select that raspberry that I have. So I am just placing a click onto the purple or the bluish color and also once on the greenish color. So it selects the entire raspberry. So in this case, what I'm doing is I am selecting the background and the edges of that raspberry. So the middle portion is not selected. So I am only selecting the background section of the image and not what is on the foreground. Can you do that, please? All right. Upon selecting the background only, the next thing you'll do is you'll go onto your adjustments layer. So I'll go and add a new adjustments layer. And again, I would try to insert a form of an image impact. This time I'll choose black and white. So when you choose black and white, what you'll see, the color of that raspberry remains and the background color changes. So I want to have a bit lightish in color, and I can actually go and play around with this. Okay, there's no greens in it, so it wouldn't change. I think the only thing that matters the most over there is you have the shadow right at the bottom of the raspberry. So magenta and blue would control portions of it. Okay, neon has no impact on it, green also has no impact on it. Now why does not green control, when we go and try to manipulate the green color, why doesn't it change the green color here for the raspberry? Because we have not selected it, we've just selected the background portion. So yellow would have no impact on it as well. I think red will have a massive impact because the entire of the image was pink, so that's a shade of red, so you can actually control that. And once you're done with it, you can collapse your adjustment layer properties. So I will click here, and this is what I get. Now, in a nutshell, your quick selection tools are very important. Okay, why? Because you are able to automatically do selections just by controlling the edges of a particular image. Now, just through the use of one simple tool, we have done so much changes to the image. We have changed the color of the raspberry over there. We have changed the color of the background. Now, not only just changing the color, we've controlled and toned our image as well. Okay, you can apply toning colors. For example, when you go into adjustment layer, you can use any of those features. Okay, you can control brightness and contrast. So with brightness and contrast, you are able to make these changes to your image. So there's a lot of image toning that you can do, but everything depends on the selection. Now, what is different from what we had done last week and this week? The difference is this: last week we went around toning the entire image. Over here, we are just toning certain elements within that particular image. All right, so there is a difference between the two. Any questions, anyone? You can't locate the quick option selection. Okay, quick selection option, it is here. Izal, if you would go into your tools menu, the fourth button, okay.
In yours it says quick selection, but when I select that one, it says that color replacement something.
Are you using photopea.com?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Actually, if you're using the same website, it shouldn't give you something different. Okay, let's have a look at this. You have move tool. After that, you have rectangle selection. You have lasso selection, and then you have another tool. So when you click and hold, you have magic wand, quick selection, and object selection. So you're supposed to select quick selection. Try it once more. When you have color replacement would be somewhere here. Here. See, color replacement is in the brush tool. You have to move to the fourth option, okay, and select quick selection tool. Are you there already, Izal?
Yes, I'm trying.
Okay, give it a go. Meanwhile, everyone, please do try and attempt this, okay? Because if you're attempting it now in the class, should you have any questions or queries, you can ask me straight away. It becomes easy. For example, Izal was trying it and he couldn't find a specific tool, and I'm able to help him straight away. So likewise, I would suggest the same to all. Okay, we'll take 2 more minutes and then we will move on to the next tool. I've allocated close to about 20 minutes for each lesson. So we are about to reach the 28 minutes. So take 2 minutes, try to get things done from your end. Any questions, queries, hit me up with a message, or you can unmute your mic and speak. All right then. Okay, so let's move on. I would ask you to save this file somewhere with you so that you have it for your future reference. By now, you should be able to save your file. It's file and then save it as a PSD file. Please save as PSD and put it in the folder. Okay, give it a name as it suits you. So please save this file somewhere. Okay, so next up, what we'll do is we'll close this and we will open up the file name called lasso tool. Lasso, Lasso. Can you go and open up the file named lasso tool? We have some happy jumping penguins in the image. Okay, so once you're there, the next set of tool that we'll be looking at is also a selection tool. The tool is called a lasso tool. Now, to locate your lasso tool, it is the tool above the quick selection tool. Okay. Now, what you'll have to do is you'll have to click and hold on that option and select lasso tool. Okay. There are three options. You have lasso, you have polygonal, and you have magnetic. Please choose the first selection, lasso tool. Now, what lasso tools are used for? Now, it is basically a more of like a cleaning up of a selection tool. Now, generally what happens is, let's say you're using a quick selection tool and then the quick selection tool is not able to select all the elements, or you are missing out to certain portions. So what you can do is you can always use a lasso tool to go and cover it up. Now, I will be working on this particular penguin, so I would suggest you to zoom in your image and pen towards the left hand side. Zooming in, zoom out, penning, you should be familiar with it at the moment. Now, how do you zoom in? Control plus, zoom out, control minus. Penning is control and your mouse roller scroll it up and down. Okay, or if you're using your laptop touchpads, control key and then try to move your finger up and down on your touchpad, it will do the same thing. All right, so this is an example of how we can apply a lasso tool. Now, just before we do that, I will take you over a quick selection tool once more, and then I'll try to control my size of the brush. Now, see what happens when I use a quick selection tool. My selection goes out of the image. Why? Why does it happen? Because there are a lot of variations. If you would have a look at this, now when I try to select this white portion, it jumps onto the sand because the sand is, it's not sand, it's snow. It's on the snow because the snow is also of the very same color as the color of the penguin. So what happens, it jumps out. Now, in this case, what I would suggest is one of the best tools is a lasso tool. Now, lasso tool has to be used something like this. Once you do hair selection with lasso tool, okay, I'll select it. And after that, I have to click and hold my mouse button. And then I have to gradually drag it carefully on along the penguin. Now do notice this at the moment. Now at the moment, I am selecting outside the penguin. Okay, I'm not selecting the more of like the edges of the penguin. Now that is wrong. It shouldn't happen something like this, because when you are selecting outside it, you're selecting the outside element as well. So I will deselect, control D, and then I'll start it all over. So what I would do is I would zoom in a bit more, and then I click and then try to select the penguin very, very slowly. I will try to select the edges of the penguin. And what I would suggest for all of you to do is to do the same as to what I am doing. Now, this requires a lot of patience, and also it will require a bit of time as well. Now, since I have zoomed in to a place where I'm able to see the pixels, the tiny dots, so what happens is that even if I'm tiny bit inward, outward of the edges, it wouldn't really matter much since it's zoomed in to that extent. Now, here's the thing. Have a look at what I'm doing. Now, what happens is I'm reaching the end of the image, okay? I have to scroll my page down. So when I release my mouse button, only then I can scroll it down. Now, that may be a problem. Why? Because I've only selected this portion. So what I can do next is this. I will go to my options menu, and there's an option called, okay, I think Unite is already selected. Unite, so Unite should be selected, and you can continue from there. And then slowly you can move down. Okay, So what you'll have to do is when you select the unite option, you'll have to take it to the other end and join it. Now I will ask you all try doing it together, and I'm using the unite option and I am dragging it to the other side. I hope you're also trying it out. Please do try and use the lasso tool to apply the selection. Your selection should go all the way around from where you started, where you have started, you should join in that very same place. So please try to do that. Like I mentioned earlier, it requires a lot of patience and time to work with a lasso tool. And it will be worth it by the end because you will only be able to achieve your result that you want to get is by patience and bit of time. And since you're doing this for the very first time, I would not need you to be very, very accurate with the selection. If you are basically going outside the edges a bit, it's fine. Okay. Or if you're going outside with it, what you can do is you can always use your subtract option and try to select that portion. So it will get subtracted. So I've selected mine. I'm waiting for you. So I'll give you about 5 minutes. Takes a bit of time. I'll give you 5 minutes, try to select yours and also play around with these tools. On your options bar, you have replace, you have unite, you have subtract, and then you have intersect. Okay, so if something goes wrong, just press Ctrl Z to undo it. Okay, can I have your attention on the screen? I'll give you time to work on it. can I have your attention on the screen? So what I have done so far is I have selected the penguin. Okay, now it's selected. You will be able to see those dash marks on the penguin that I have selected, this one. So after I have selected it, what I can do is I can go and manipulate, because I can go and manipulate my selection, because that's what we want to do at the very first place. So from there, what we will do is we will go and click on new adjustment layer, and I want to apply some form of a filter on it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just play around with the black and white. You can apply any, but I will play around with the black and white, and then I'll try to change the color a bit here and there, just to make it look a bit different in comparison with the other penguins. And then I'll go and contrast my properties. So deselect, Control D to Z-select. So this is what I get. So this is what the original was, and this is what I have. See, since I have a mask on it, okay, or the adjustment layer on it, so I can always go and go back by showing and hiding on layers panel. All right, now you do that, please. I'll give you about 5 minutes to select and then apply. You can not only apply the black and white color, you can do any form of adjustment on it. If you have any questions, any queries, please feel free to let me know. Okay, you have 2 more minutes left, and then we'll move on. Okay, all good, everyone? Is there anyone facing problems or queries? No. If not, can you please save this? By the way, is there anyone who needs some more time? Let me know if you need more time. Okay? No, everyone is fine. So if everyone is fine, can you go and save this up in your folder? And after you've saved it up, I'll ask you to go and open up the file called Fine Tool Selection, the one with the flower. Save this up first, and then open up the file named File Tool Selection. This particular file, what we'll be doing is we'll also be doing a form of a selection, but this is for extracting very, very fine details. So how do we extract the very fine details is to the use of a layer mask. All right, so the very first thing we'll do is I'll ask you to go and select the quick selection tool. So this is our quick selection tool from the tools panel. So tools panel, the fourth tool, quick selection tool. From there, I'll just ask you to go and apply the selection on that flower. And notice this, since your flower has black portions in the middle as well, it goes around selecting the stem. Okay, see, you have the black portions within the flower right in the middle. So since there's a selection of black, so it also goes and selects the black stem. Right, now once you have done that, after that, at last I would ask you to go and from your menu bar, you have a command called select. First of all, quick selection tool applied on that flower, on the image, and then your menu bar. From there, you'll select the options select, and then scroll down or move down, and can you go and select quick mask mode. This is the one that I'm referring to, quick mask mode. And you'll see you have a mask applied, a red mask rather. Now, this is more likely called a overlay mode. So in the mask mode, now what happens in Photoshop, now this is where photo key is a bit different from Photoshop. So in Photoshop, your mask option is normally in the options bar. It will be somewhere over here. So when you click onto that mask option, okay, you'll have some more options. Generally, to fine tune, we use an option called overlay, but we do not have it here in photopea.com, but it does the very same job. Instead of having different options, it gives you one single option, but allows you to do the very same job. Now, do notice this. Once you have this, this is called an overlay. Once you have an overlay, you'll see that you have a non-selected area. So your non-selected area is represented by the translucent red color. This is called a translucent red color. Why translucent? That means you can still see what is on the background as well. Translucent, transparent, they mean the same thing. Okay, so the red translucent layer that you are seeing is basically the non-selected area, and you have clear color. This is red, this is clear. The clear one is generally the selected area. So far what you'll see is we have selected the flower. We have also gone around selecting the stamp as well. Now, what we want to do here is this. We want only the flower to be selected, and we don't want the stamp to be selected. So in order for us to apply the selection, we have to go onto our brush tool. So this is how overlay masks work. So once you have a selection done and you want to edit the selection, you have to use your brush tool. So from your tools menu or your toolbar, can you go and select the brush tool? The brush tool is generally indicated by an icon of a brush. So you'll select that. Is this particular tool over here? You'll select that, and after that you'll go and apply that brush color on your image. So we'll start from the very bottom and we'll start applying this. You'll notice that when you are applying your brush color onto that image, it gets a red translucent. Okay, and just in case if you feel that your brush size is too big, remember the shortcut keys: open rectangular bracket, close rectangular bracket. So open rectangular bracket to make it small. I'll zoom in more so that it gives me more clarity to work with, and also I can select even more. You know, the black portions, I can select it to the pixels. See, I'm seeing the pixels. So what kind of image is this? This is a bitmap or raster image, since I'm able to see the pixels. And then I can go and actually apply the selection. If you feel that your brush size is too big, you can always make it small using your shortcut rectangular keys, and I am selecting them. Very nice, very easy, and very slow. And if you feel you want to select these portions as well, go for it. Okay, so I'm doing it as such. After that, I have some more black portions on the left hand side. So I'll use my panning option. How do I use my panning option? Is basically control button and a mouse roll, or a you moving your touchpad up and down. Okay, moving your finger on the touchpad. So again, I am applying my brush tool color onto that black portion. I'm picking onto the edges first so that it becomes easy for me to color the rests. And you can also go around manipulating the size of your brush tool. Just on computer ergonomics point of view, computer ergonomics is more related to your health. Please ensure when you're working with these things, blink as much as possible. That will avoid strain on your eyes. Now you'll notice that I'm going very, very slow. Why? Because when you have pixels like this, if you go too fast, you may end up missing a pixel or two, and then color will be very much visible. So please ensure, go slow, go easy. Okay, do not rush through. All right, so once we have actually done that, I'll give you a few more minutes, take about 2 to 3 minutes more to actually get it selected. Ensure that you are zooming in, you're able to see the pixels, and then from there, your brush tool activated, can you go and select all the black color? We are targeting the stamping. All right, anyone needs some more time to attempt it? Any questions, anyone? Okay, so nobody needs additional time, and if there's no question, what we'll do next is we'll proceed with it. So once you are done with your selection, you'll go back to your select command in your menu bar, and you'll go and you'll notice that quick mask mode is selected. You'll go and place a click on it again, and that is a specific selection. Now what you'll notice is that all the black portion is not selected anymore. It's just that you are selecting the you're just selecting more likely the petal of the flower. Now do notice this. Okay, do have a look at this. You'll notice that the portion of the petal of the flower is not selected because of that specific color. So in that case, what I will do is this. I will go into my lasso tool, okay, ensure that my unite option is selected, and I will quickly go and select that portion and make a circle of it. So that selects it. Likewise, I will go and select this portion as well. So that is included in the selection. Can you go into the same place? And a bit of portion from here as well. Now, what you'll notice is that I'm trying to complete a circle. So where the starting point is, for example, the petal goes somewhere over here. The starting point, I'll make a round and try to ensure my end point meets my starting point. So that gives me that selection. Please do that. At the moment, we're just working on very simple images. You know, even when I went around choosing these images for exercises, your lab exercises, I ensured that I chose very simple images. But not every time you are going to work with simple images. There will be times when you'll have most difficult images and with a lot of different color variations. But you will still use the simple tools to do the same. It's just that you'll need to learn the concepts on basic images and then apply it accordingly on those complex images. Now, I'm assuming you have done your selection so far. Now, if you have done it, this is what you'll do next. We'll go and apply a new adjustment layer. And this time, we'll go and control the exposure. Now, you can have it to anything that you want to, totally up to you. So whatever we have selected, we have just selected the flower. So we are controlling the exposure. That's one of the things that you can do. Let's say if you have changed your mind, you don't want to have that exposure anymore, you can hide using that eye icon. You can hide it across, okay, and add another adjustment there and probably change the color. It's totally up to you. So since this is more of a red in color, so you'll notice that it's choosing by default it chooses red as a range, and you can change the color to whatever you want it to be. It's totally up to you how you want to edit it. So this is what it was in real, the actual image, and this is what it has gone into. Now, also notice this, Bobby, if you would have a look at this, once when I actually applied my masking, the overlay masking, when I was selecting this, so my paintbrush went over the black portion and also on the background, and you'll see it's very much visible. Okay, so therefore when you are doing your selection, you need to be careful. You are only selecting that black portion and not outside that portion. So when you select outside, it leaves a sort of impact on it as well. So that's another thing that we need to reconsider while we are doing our selection to edit or tone images. All right, I'll give you about 2 minutes to sum up the work, and then we'll move on to the next exercise. The next few exercises are going to be more interesting than just image toning. Yeah? Remember, if you would need to deselect this, how do you deselect? You'll need to go back to your original image, which is in the background layer, Control D. That's the shortcut for deselecting a selection. And if you want to bring back the selection, Control Z. So there are different types of tunings that you can apply, whichever suits you the best. It's totally up to you. Now, if you are working in an organization which basically runs things on websites, so image toning is one of the important aspects, because when you are selling products, let's say online, so you'll be taking pictures for sure, and not every picture would be just perfect. Despite whichever camera you have, it will require some form of toning, some form of lightening, some form of contrasting, brightness or controlling of hue, saturation, or vibrance, or so forth. So this is a very important tool, especially with photographs. Okay, so that sums up our work on image toning in Photoshop. Now there are more to it, but these are the very basic and essential ones that you would even require to use in industries. Now, things to note is that when you're doing image toning, okay, if you're working on an entire image, always try to have an adjustment layer that will ensure that you are not spoiling the original image. And then when you are trying to control or tone images, but specific elements within an image, so that's where your selection tools come in very handy. And the two most important ones is basically the quick selection tool, and then you have the lasso tool. Now with the quick selection lasso tool, you can also apply a fine tool selection with the use of layer masks. So the layer mask is the one that we had just did. So that gives you a control of things which are translucent red. That means those things are not selected, and things which are clear on the screen, only those elements are selected. Now do note this, when you're using layer masks, it becomes very easy, and it is a very handy tool when you have a lot of elements in your particular image. For example, if you have a beach scenario, and in the beach you have people running around, you have different types of instruments, those water activity equipments, and also you have banners, you have probably one or two stalls near the beach and so forth. And if you're asked to select or deselect something in situations like that, using layer masks is very handy. Okay, what it does, it allows you to only have that portion selected while the others are going to be in translucent red. Yep, so that's on image fine-tuning. The next three exercises or lessons that we will be doing, which will take up close to about more than half an hour or so, or probably about more than 45 minutes, is on image correction. Image correction is also as important. Now, some examples where image corrections may be needed is something like this. Let's say I have went around at a picnic spot, or probably at a beautiful scenery, and I'm taking a picture. So while I'm taking the picture, let's say I've taken the picture and I didn't go back previewing that particular image. So when I go back home and I see that while I have taken the picture, somebody steps in. So that means that picture is ruined. So you may be thinking, okay, this was a beautiful picture, it's ruined by this person walking in, so I will need to throw away this picture. But if you know how to use Photoshop, you can edit it, you can remove that individual from that picture. So that is an example of image correction. Another thing, it's, let's say you are doing a consultation work, for example, for a website, and then you are supposed to take images and then update it on our website. So while you have taken the picture, let's say you've taken it for a particular hotel. So you have taken the picture looks beautiful. But you notice that when somebody would try to zoom into that particular picture, there's a broom line somewhere in the middle, or there's a shoe somewhere in the middle of that beautiful picture. And if somebody would zoom it, then they will notice it. So you will need to correct it up. So if you know Photoshop, and if you know how to work with the image correction tools, you can actually go around improving the picture. Another good example is this. So you have taken a photograph, So in the photograph, half of the portion, the grass looks very, very good, or the trees look good. And there's a small portion whereby the grass is dried out, or the tree, a branch and is broken off. So that doesn't look good, especially if you're trying to advertise something in a tourism sector point of view. So what you will need to do is you need to go and edit it. So how you do it, those are some of the things that you will learn with the next 3 lessons. So first of all, I'll ask you to save this image somewhere where you have been saving all the other files. I'll close it. I already have saved versions of this, so please you save it somewhere whereby later onwards you'll be finding it handy, and please ensure that you're saving it in a PSD format. By now you should be able to know how to save it in a PSD format or how to save it in a PNG or .jpeg format. After that, I'll ask you to open up the image, and you open up the image called Spot Healing. Spot Healing is the name of our image. Okay, so once you're there, what I'll ask you to do is to zoom in and scroll at the bottom of the image. So this is where I want to scroll to. Okay, if you carefully look at the image, I'm not so sure what the thing on the side is. So you have a person who's walking, and then on the side, I'm not so sure. It looks like a building, but it's not actually a building, because a building can't be slanted towards the right-hand side or the left-hand side. Okay, so it's more likely, what I'm thinking is this image is edited anyway. Okay, so what I want to do is, now what you'll notice is that at the bottom you have those circular things. Now I'm thinking these are lights which actually shines up somewhere in the evening. Now notice this, 1, 2. Now don't worry about this where the person is walking. 3 and 4. Now let's say at the moment it doesn't look disturbing to me, but let's say if this was actually disturbing the entire look of the image, how would you go around removing them? Okay, so what we can do is we'll use a photo correction tool which is called as Spot Healing Brush. Okay, now Spot Healing Brush, you should be able to find it here. Okay, you'll see a band-aid kind of icon. So in your tools panel, so first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. The 7th tool, the icon is like a band-aid, and you'll click on it, click and hold. So you have different types of healing tools. So I will basically go and choose the first one, Spot Healing Tool. All right, now after that, I would ask you to go and adjust the size of the healing tool. Since it's like a brush, Spot Healing Brush, so it gives you a brush icon. I'll call it as brush size. Now the brush size, can you go and reduce it so that it matches the size of that particular circular light? Now be very careful. You should cover up that light. Have a look at this. Now you should be able to cover up that light and also a portion of the background as well. Only then you can have it removed completely without disturbing the background. So I have adjusted it as such. Now, how did I adjust it? I've used the shortcut key, open bracket to make it smaller, open rectangular bracket to make it smaller, and then closing rectangular bracket key to make it bigger. So I'm trying to cover up something like this. Adjust the size of your brush. All right, so once you have done that, what you will do next is basically very carefully, since it's covering up the entire of the circular light, I'll place a click on it just once. Give it some time, and you'll see it's completely removed. This is what it was. So what I've done is basically I have adjusted the size of my brush, and I have selected that particular light, and then I've clicked on it once. Now, depending on the connectivity of your internet and also your processor speed, it may take a bit longer compared to others. Mine just went a bit faster. Okay, so if your internet is slow, it will take a bit slower to actually remove that. So what I need you to do next is, likewise, we'll go to the other section, or to the other light, sorry, and then I will try to adjust the size of that particular heel brush again. See, I'm just using the shortcut key, so that becomes so easy, rather than every time going in and then increasing the size and then seeing, oh, this is too big, oh, this is too small. So it's better for you to know the shortcut keys. All right, so closing rectangle tool. Okay, so this is the size, and I will click on it once and it's gone. Likewise, can you do it for the other two in front of that individual as well? Make sure you zoom in, adjust the size accordingly, and then apply your heel brush. Now notice this. Okay, sorry, can I have attention just for a second? If I would try to heal this particular one, this particular light, and notice that there's no particular way in which I can actually remove this entirely without touching the shoe. So if I would touch even a tiny portion of the shoe and try to heal, this happens. But if you would minimize your image or zoom out your image, you'll also notice that all over. So therefore leave that as it is, only try to remove the ones behind him and in front of him. And if you are facing any problems with it, please do let me know. This is rather a very simple tool. You have 2 minutes with you. All right, so I'm guessing this was quite simple, a bit interesting as well. I think you'll find the next lesson even more interesting. So can you go and save this file as a PSD format? Please save this file as PSD format. And after that, can you go and open up the file? After that, can you please go and open up the file called clone stamp? Now, with spot healing brush, some of the very handy places where you can use that is by removing objects. Now, you can only remove objects which are quite small in size, one, Also, you can only go and remove objects which lie on only one or two specific colors. Just in case, if you have a object that you want to remove, but there's a lot of color variations in that particular image, so removing an object would be very, very difficult. You'll notice what happened when we actually tried to remove that particular light and it came in touch with the shoe. So that became very, very difficult. So that is something that you need to remember in spot healing. There is an alternative tool that we can use in Photoshop to remove objects with very different types of color variations. We will be talking about them in our next few exercises. But for now, at the moment, we are going to work on something called as a clone stamp. So what a clone stamp does is something like this. Remember, I was telling you an example. Let's say I've taken a picture and half of the picture, the grass is quite green in color, looks good, but the other half, it looks brown. So if you want to replace that brown grass with green grass, what you can do is you can clone it up. Okay, so we will try to do something here in this particular lesson, and we'll try to clone a few things. So first of all, what I will ask you to do is to enlarge your image. Now, notice this. This seems like a rose. Okay, this particular rose that you have here, I want to place this rose over here in this stamp. So what I will do is I will go and clone it up. Now, not only I want to have it here, but I want to have it here in a different color as well. So instead of having it pink, I want to change it to color red. Now the coloring part is something different altogether. First of all, we'll have to use a clone stamp tool to actually clone it up to the other side. So your clone stamp tool is available in your tools panel. So this is your tools panel. In your clone stamp tool has an icon of like a stamp, this particular one. So this is more likely the 9th button from the top. So it's called as clone tool. Now in Photoshop, it's called a clone. If you're using the actual Adobe Photoshop, it's called clone stamp tool. But over here, they call it as clone tool, which does the very same word. Okay, so not much of a difference. So what I will do is this. I will basically go and click on it once. Please be very careful with this kind of tool. I'll tell you why. Select it, please. Now, after you've selected it, what you will do is you will take your cursor on that particular object that you actually want to copy. It's like a copy and a paste, or more likely what you're trying to do is you're trying to copy it and then you are trying to emulate that cloning onto some other side or to some other side of that particular image. So in this case, this is the one that we're trying to clone. So what I will do is I'll try to increase my size of the brush. Okay, so it goes this big. There you go. Now I'll make it a bit smaller so it only covers up that image. Now do notice this coverage. Once I actually increase the size, you should be able to see the preview of it. So this is what I am after. Now please ensure when you are adjusting the size of the brush, do not move your cursor. If you move it, you'll see something different. Okay, just keep it still and then try to increase the size. So you need to ensure it actually fits the entire rose element. Done? Now, once you've selected it, the next thing you need to do is you need to press and hold your Alt button from the keyboard. So when you press your Alt button, you'll see a precision icon. Now this is called a precision icon. Okay, just like when you're playing games, gun-based games. Okay, so you have a aiming icon. So it's called a precision icon. Okay, and then you'll click on it just once and then release your Alt button. Let me do that. Press and hold Alt button. You have the precision icon. Place a click on it once and then release your Alt button from the keyboard. So once you've done that, what you will do is you'll see that you're moving that particular rose on the other side. So I will put it here now. Notice this. When I take it closer to the image, now this basically white portion is basically an indicator of the size of the brush that you actually had. If it was too big, so you'll see it clashes with the leaves. Now I don't want to have any clashes. So very carefully, what I'll do is I will zoom in, okay, and I will pan towards the right hand side, and then I'll try to ensure this white portion doesn't interfere with the leaves, okay, and then I'll place it here and click on it once and then release. Are you able to get the same result as what I had? Now, next up is the stem portion. Okay, so what I will do is, again, I'll go into my stem tool, place a click on it once, and then I will try to adjust the size of my, now why I need a smaller size, do have a look at this. So if my size is too big, it will interfere with the leaves. I don't want to do that. Okay, so this is most likely the appropriate size. So what I will do is I will go on to the stem and then press and hold my Alt button, place a click on it once, just once, and then I'll zoom in my image even further. I'll send it to the right hand side. Now this becomes very important. You need to ensure you match in the stamp very carefully. If you're not matching it carefully, it will look awkward. Okay, so very carefully. All right, Alt button is released already, and then click on it once, and then scroll it down a bit more, take your cursor down, and then again click on it once. And finally, now here comes a disturbance. Now what is the disturbance? You'll see that white portion that you're seeing on the stamp. So I will try to reduce the size of my brush tool. You see that the size, I'm reducing it. This is bigger, I'm reducing it, so this does not actually interfere with the stamp. There you go. And the last one, I'll have to reduce it as such so that there's no disturbance at all. There you go. And then finally I will zoom out. So this is what I had. Now if you have a look at it very carefully, it does not seem like that I have actually created it manually or something as such. Okay, it looks sort of realistic. Now to improve it even further and to make it look a bit more realistic, what I would need you to do next is basically go and use your quick selection tool, select this rose, okay, the rose bud, and make it reddish in color. How do I do that? Okay, so very quickly, a quick selection tool, which is this, and then I'll control the size of my brush, make it a bit more smaller, select this very carefully. After that, I'll go onto my adjustments layer and then hue saturation, and I'm controlling the reds. So I want to change the color to something in reddish. Okay, let's give it to a different, I'll tell you how to specifically choose color red later. What I want to do is I want you to change it into a different color. Now how to change to specific colors that you want, that is something I will cover up into that is something I'll cover up in the next few lessons. Okay, so have that and then minimize the property. And how do I deselect? Control D to deselect my selection. All good, everyone? So that's an example of how we can actually use cloning tools. Okay, clone stem tool. And there's a lot of things you can even clone. You can even have this over here, this rose that you're seeing, you can have it inserted on the other side, or you can have an entire thing from top to bottom. You can place it here. It all requires a level of precision, accuracy, and also it will require a lot of patience and time. Now doing these things require a lot of time. Now this is very simple. You don't have much complications on this image. When you are working with a image which has a lot of elements, especially if it has a lot of colors, then it makes work a bit difficult. So you will need to put in that amount of time and that amount of effort to get it done properly. All right, now can you save this? since we're running short of time, can you quickly save this in a PSD format? And after that, close this off and open up a file called context aware, sorry, not context, but content aware. Okay, content aware. With me, everyone? Now, can you tell me if this image has already been edited or is it an original image? Can somebody tell me, is it edited or is it an original image? Anyone? And also, can somebody tell me what type of image is this? Is this a vector image or is it a bitmap image or a raster image? By the way, somebody has messaged something. This is Seema. You have said edited. Yes, it is an edited image. How can you say it is an edited image? Look at these portions, they're all blurry. Okay, even look at this. So when you take a photograph in a camera, okay, even if your camera is on optimization mode or on content aware mode, normally it would try to blur out the very end, very far portions. Now these portions, you notice that this is blurred, this is also blurred, okay, even this is blurred as well. So the blurry portions wouldn't be applied at the very beginning or right in the front portions of an image. So this is edited, likewise this as well. Also, you'll notice is that there's some additional contrasts applied and saturation applied. Look at the color here compared to the color here and compared to the color here. I think the color here is just because of the blurriness. This is the original color, I'm guessing, and this is the saturation and the contrast effect that has been applied on this image. All right, so just by looking at this, you know, gradually when you work on Photoshop elements, you will realize that what things are edited and what things are not edited rather. And the only way you can do it is basically you'll have to practice a lot. Not necessarily whatever things we do in the class you only learn that. You can go outside the boundaries and try to learn few more things with YouTube, or go into a website which basically has tutorials on Photoshop and try to replicate those things. That's probably the best way in which you can learn, and learn not just what is here within the class but outside the class as well. Because with Photoshop, even if I try to cover Photoshop for the entire year each and every day, I will not be able to cover all the level of possibilities you can have in Photoshop. Okay, so with the simple tools and with the right creative mind, there could be a lot of possibilities. Now the second question that I asked, what kind of image is this? Is this a vector image? Is this a bitmap image, or is this a raster image? Now if you try to back, or if you try to recall what we had learned in yesterday's lecture class, all bitmap images are photorealistic images, the ones that you can take from cameras. Okay, so this is an example of a bitmap image. Okay, it is not a vector image because vector images needs to be drawn. And how it is drawn? It is drawn through the relation with mathematical calculations. So these are not drawn, these are generally pictures taken in. So what is a raster image? A raster image is another word for bitmap image. So if your answer was bitmap and raster image, then you are correct. If you just mentioned bitmap, that's incorrect. Okay, it's bitmap and raster image because they are the same thing. All right, now what we're trying to do in this particular image is we want to take out the owl from the picture. Now you can't do this using a spot healing tool, because with the use of a spot healing tool, what will gradually happen is that you'll end up messing up the image because there's various color contrasts. Now if I would zoom in, now have a look at this, the different types of colors that you have. Owl is basically black and white and gray in combination. There are three colors: black, white, and gray. Now do notice this, the leaves, it is green, but you have variation of light green and dark green, and also you have blackish portions as well. Moreover, you'll notice is that the leaves also throw a color of yellow in it as well. Where does the yellow come from? You'll notice the sun is setting, so it's going down. It's so the yellow color is thrown on top of it. So a lot of different variations of color. So with the spot healing tool, this wouldn't work. Therefore, the next tool that we are going to work with is called a selection plus content aware tool. The very first thing you need to do is you need to use your lasso tool to actually go and select the owl. Now, once you are using your lasso tool in with content aware, you need to include a bit of background as well. So if the background is inserted, now not too much, just a little bit. If the background is included, it will try to pick up those background colors and that background texture, and it will cover up the image that you're trying to, or the portion or the object in the image that you're trying to take out. So have a look at it first, and then I ask you to try it on your own. So first of all, have a look. So I will select my lasso tool from my tools menu. That's the third option in the tools panel. And then very carefully, oops, sorry, it's not selected. Okay, here. So very carefully, I will try and go and select the owl, but I need to ensure that I'm including a bit of background as well. So very, very carefully, I'll work on this. Okay. Oops, 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 oops. Sorry. Let me come back to it again. So a bit of background as well. And okay, you'll notice that this is the owl, and what you're seeing, the long portion is a branch of the tree. So I'll need to exclude that. Okay. And this is the only portion I'm able to cover up for the owl with a bit of background. And I've done my selection. So after, when I've done my selection, the next thing what I'll do is I'll need to go to my menu bar, which is the top one here, right at the very top. So from my menu bar, I'll click onto the edit command and then look for the option called fill. This is the one, fill. The shortcut for fill is Shift F5. And in the fill selection, a few things. You have foreground, background, custom. I will need to go and select content aware. So once you have selected content aware, click on your OK button and give it some time for it to process, because you're taking out a lot of pixels from that particular image, and press Ctrl D. So this is what I get. Sorry, there you go. So this is what I get in terms of my content aware removal, and the owl is gone. Now do notice this, you didn't have this additional branch, it just came in. Why did it came in? Because when I tried to use my lasso tool to actually have that area selected, I had the branch selected as well. So this came in. Now, if this is a problem and you do not want to have that, and it makes the picture go a bit off, what you can do is, when you're choosing the owl, you can choose the entire branch as well, and that particular branch, whole thing will get removed or eliminated. So let's go and work on this and do it together this time. Let me choose my image once again. Somehow it has shifted. Okay, now let's go and work together on this. The very first thing we'll do is we'll select our lasso tool. So once that's selected, I will go and ensure I am outlining, or I am selecting the owl with a bit of background as well. Now, like mentioned, this time we'll try selecting the branch together with the owl. So the branch coloring covers somewhere till here. And then I'll try to make a round and go all the way around. And I have selected the owl together with the branch. I'll give you 2 minutes for all of you to do the selection, and then we'll slowly move on to the content aware. So once you have done that, okay, please go to your edit option in the menu bar and then choose the command fill. So edit, and then we'll choose a command fill. From there, you need to ensure that content aware is selected and click on your OK button. Give it a few seconds. If your computer or internet is a bit slow, it will take probably a minute or so. And then you'll see that the owl is removed. So once it's removed, you can press Ctrl D to deselect your selection and then zoom out. Now this looks way more better than what we had the previous time. Another thing to know, just in case your result does not come to what you had expected, try it again. Once, twice, thrice, try it all over and see if it reaches the expected result that you wanted to get. Okay. Anyone is facing any problems or queries in regards to this? Any questions, anyone? Okay. If no questions in regards to this lesson, any general questions in regards to CN 535, any queries, any questions? Okay, so no questions then. Now let's move back to the Moodle shell. Okay, so week 3, under week 3, we had 6 lessons. So we had put those up in the class today. So first of all, we started with quick selection tool. So we applied the quick selection tool and we changed and we went around changing the hue and saturation and the background color. After that, we had used our lasso tool, and with the use of lasso tool, what we had done was we went around creating a new adjustments layer and we converted into black and white, the use of penguins that we had. After that, we went around opening up another image and we went around with working with fine tool selection. So with the fine tool selection, normally we end up using a layer mask. So with the layer mask and the overlay option, we went around selecting the things that on a very precise version. Then later onwards, we concluded on image toning and we went around working on spot healing brush, which is part of image correction. So with spot healing, you can heal or remove spots or very tiny elements in simple images. Then later onwards, we went around in lesson 5, we went around in cloning things. So we cloned a flower. And then finally, we went on working with content aware. With content aware, what you can do is you can remove unwanted objects. And with it, you need, what you can do is you can work with images with multiple tones of colors. Okay, for example, the last image with the owl and the different kind of colors that we had. Now, with all those lab exercises that we did today in the class, what I need you to do is I need you to attempt these. So under week 3 exercise, you have 4 images. So what all you need to do with the image is written on the image itself. For example, the very first image that you have is change color of strawberries. So let me just open this up. So you have an image with strawberry. So what you can do is I want you to change it to any particular color that you want to. Now we have not worked with precise colors, we have worked with generic colors. The meaning with hue and saturation, you're not reaching the color that you want to have. For example, if you want to have a specific blend of red or specific blend of blue, we have not worked on that at the moment. So work with just changing the color to any color that you are able to come up with hue or saturation. By changing it to precise colors, that's something is reserved for future. So we'll work on that in time to come. That's your very first exercise. The second exercise is you have to work with cloning. Now, the name of the image is clone more beetles. So you have only one beetle at the moment. So apply your cloning stem tool and have more than one beetle instead of just one. Okay, have more than one beetle on this flower. So use a clone tool. The third one that you have, the name is remove the windows using spot healing. Okay, so every 1 or 2 windows, try to apply a spot healing tool and eliminate the window, remove the window. Now here's the thing, I do understand this image has multiple tones of colors. It has a white and it has a black and gray as well. So most likely when you remove it, you'll see a bit of distortion of that particular wall of the building, don't worry about that. Just try to remove the window. And finally is this. Okay, you have taken a perfect picture shot. This lady ruined your picture. Okay, remove her from the image. So you are supposed to go around applying a content aware tool and remove her from this image. Now try removing her first and then try to remove her shadow. This is possible. Okay, so work on this and we will discuss this right at the very beginning in next week's class. So the first thing we'll do is we'll kick off with this and then we'll begin with the other lessons. All good, everyone? Apart from that, please start work on your project 1, okay, and also start revising for your short test 1, which will be in week 5, your MST, which will be in MST is mid-semester exam, by the way, which will be in week 7. Yeah, so that's all for today's class. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. So then take care, stay safe, have a blessed weekend ahead, and yep, stay healthy and fit. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, any queries, please feel free to drop me an email or message me on Moodle, or you can always speak now. So I'll give a minute before I will close out the session. If you have any questions, you can either send me a chat message or you can unmute your mics and speak. If not, after a minute, I will close out the session. Thank you. All right, so I'm guessing no questions. So therefore, goodbye, everyone. See you all next week. Thank you.